Hello and welcome to the Smarter Conversations podcast, where we'll be weaving together voices from the cotton supply chain. This podcast is brought to you by the US Cotton Trust Protocol. I'm your host, Kathy Smith. I'm an independent freelance journalist. This podcast series does exactly what the name implies. I'm going to be talking to some of the key movers and shakers in the global textile supply chain to dig into the world of cotton. So this is episode 7 in the series, and we're focusing on how independent third-party verification works. Now, without independent verification, anyone could make green claims without any checks and balances in place. So we're going to discuss how it works in practice and what it means for the certifier and also for the people being certified. So joining me today is a grower who signed up to the Trust Protocol, Dahlen Hancock, who is a cotton grower from Texas. Great to see you, Dahlen. How are you? Whereabouts are you in Texas?
Well, I'm in just outside of Lubbock, Texas, up in the Panhandle, West Texas.
And have you been hit by the terrible weather that we're hearing so much about?
Yes, we've had some weather, definitely last week, the cold weather. Wasn't as hard on us as it was some of the southern part of the state. It's definitely not used to, you know, zero type weather. So yeah, it's been it was a rough week, but anyway, thanks for asking.
You've come through it. And did I see that you're a 4th generation farmer? Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, 4th generation, and then I have a granddaughter, Cora, who will be the 5th generation. She's fixing to be 8 years old, and she loves the farm. She's with us, with me, with my son all the time. She loves being out there.
But that's always great to think that there's a new generation coming through. And so that's obviously important in what we're talking about. And we're also delighted to be joined by Perez, who is the program coordinator at Control Union Certifications, which is the third-party body verifying the US Cotton Trust Protocol data. So Diana, lovely to see you. I know you're in Florida, I think.
Yes, it's nice to be here. Yep, I'm in South Florida.
So listen, I want to ask you, Diana, a little bit more about how third-party verification works, because I know it's your life's work. It's what you do all the time. Explain how it works in practice.
Sure. So, third-party certification is really like a tool that companies can use to tell a story about their product. So it's the idea that like an individual set of eyes that doesn't have anything to do with any program or implementation comes in and checks that things are happening the way that the company is saying that they're happening, basically.
So how are auditors actually trained then? What are you actually looking for?
So every standard is different. And for the Cotton Trust Protocol, we worked together with an auditor to build like the interpretation piece of what exactly each practice, like what you need to look for each practice for compliance. And that can be different things. So part of it is to go to the actual farm and to see what's happening in the field. So you can like see with your own eyes what's happening, and write it in a report. But then there's also, of course, a documentation trail sometimes, which is useful for auditors to see exactly how things are working in the field.
So you're looking at things like soil carbon, water management, soil loss, all these sort of things.
Right. So the way that so I think that you're referring to kind of the field print calculator metrics, it sounds like. And so, yeah, a piece of the Cotton Trust Protocol is to check that the growers are working with the field to market platform. And then the actual verification on the data is going to happen probably at a later stage. But right now, a piece of the visit is like, okay, let's look at your field print calculator. Let's see how the data gets in there. And just making sure that they're like using it, because, yeah.
And the fact that the Cotton Trust Protocol chose you to do this, why specifically were you chosen, do you think?
Control Union has over 100 years experience in certifications and in inspections and in the agricultural world. And we have also worked very closely with Field to Market in the past. So we helped them develop their verification protocol as well. So the fact that the Cotton Trust Protocol is working with the field print calculator, like it just kind of made sense to work together on this.
But you have to prepare specifically for cotton because obviously, as you say, you're working in so many different sectors in terms of auditing. So how do you actually prepare to work in a new field, if you like?
Sure. So each commodity has its own in-field practices, and the good thing about working on this protocol was that the Cotton Trust really explained to us a lot about how cotton growing works. So what what maybe what maybe we would audit in like a soy field is different than what we would look for in a cotton field, and the Cotton Trust protocol was really helpful in like showing us, exactly how growing works in the cotton
Well, give
world.
me an example. Give me an example of that then. What would be the difference
Sure.
between a soy field and a cotton field?
So, as an example, so part of the protocol is making sure that the pesticides that are being used, right, are being used legally. And so, what you want to make sure is that the like every pesticide has like an SDS sheet, which lists what exactly it needs to be used for. So you don't want to go to a cotton field and see that they're spraying something that is meant for soy, right? So the Cotton Trust protocol was really helpful in showing us like these are the common pests, right, that cotton growers are dealing with. And I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I know that Dahlen could probably tell you quite a lot more about that. Yeah.
Well, let me bring Dale on in because you are the person or one of the people who is being verified, if you like. So how does that work? I mean, are you happy to be part of this process?
Oh, definitely. I think for one, just want to thank you for having me on today. My experience with the verification process it was a very good process. I mean, I was a little nervous at first. I had done a couple of these verifications before with BCI. So I was familiar with how it works, what you do in a third party verification. But the protocol was very easy. It was a natural process. What I like more than anything, it gives me a chance to showcase and talk about my farm. It gives us a chance to tell what we do. I've been doing this this is my 41st crop. So 41 years of growing cotton and a fourth generation, things change through life and we have to adapt and change with it. And that's what I think more than anything, it gives me that so that way I get a chance and I can show how I'm managing the data, what data I'm using just as Diana talked about, pesticides, whatever we're doing, I can show that data to that third party verifier who's a neutral party. And wow, to me, there's some assurance in that. And I actually used it as an opportunity for me to try to see how I could improve. I asked questions that day, hey, what do you think? Is there something that you think, in your opinion, that could help me a little? It's their opinion. And so that's good.
And so, when you are doing all the data input and the data collection, do you have to be really precise? I mean, is it quite a big task for you, actually, Dalen?
Yeah. I mean, it is a task, but I think no more than any other task that any business would do in their, making sure that their data is correct. When you do an audit of any kind, you got to make sure that the right numbers and things are done correctly. You're asking about pesticides. Ours is really that what helps is we have a TDA here that we have to do. In other words, to make sure that if we get spot checked on anything, we have to have those records, that data showing exactly that minute what we sprayed, and like I said, everything we use is within USDA guidelines, the regulations. But we also have to make sure that we did it timely. We did it when we're supposed to. We did it when the wind was correct. All these things. And so, if you get spot checked, or if there is a complaint, then you have to provide that data. So there's a reassurance in knowing that you have that. So yes, it definitely is a good tool.
And obviously, the very center of the US Cotton Trust Protocol is actually setting sustainability goals for the future. So, do you think that, Dalen, that this sort of verification is important to help to meet those goals in the future?
Oh no, without a doubt. Definitely, like I said, as times change over the generations, I have two sons that are farming behind me. They'll be the fifth generation. Then I have the sixth generation, which is my granddaughter. And obviously, as things change, we want to make sure that we are using and we're being the best stewards we can for the land. Just thinking about the metrics of land use, making sure our soil carbon, kind of seeing what that footprint looks like, water management. We live in a very arid, there are areas here that have some decent water, underground water, but most of our water is uh, supplemental. We need rainfall, so we have to manage our water very well. So having that, soil erosion, we live in an area where there's sand, wind blows. So anything we can do with cover crops, doing rotation of crops, things like that, that's all really evolved through the years, and it's front and center now. I think just making sure that we're covering all those bases.
So, Diana, if we're talking about trying to meet sustainability goals in the future, which is what the Cotton Protocol is all about, do you think that having this sort of neutral third party element is really going to speed the way towards these goals?
Yes. So I think that it is really useful to have a neutral third party come in and do like an independent verification on what a company is publicly claiming. And next to that, the Cotton Trust Protocol is interesting in that they are setting it up to be like a continuous improvement program with the idea that you are verifying your data and your processes as they are right now, with the idea that in the next 3 years, when the next audit comes around, you'll see that there was some kind of improvement, like somewhere along all of those different metrics.
And obviously, Dahlen is completely on board. That we know, we can hear that and very much. But Diana, I mean, do you find that there's any resistance amongst any of the farmers?
Well, first, I want to say that our auditors are really good at what they do. So they know how to ask these questions, and they do it in a way that the growers usually feel comfortable with. There's always, of course, going to be like some people who have some pushback, but mostly we have like cooperation with the growers, which is really helpful for us to do our job, because we're not there to like show that anybody's doing anything wrong. We're really there to prove compliance on the grower side, and once the growers understand that, like they're a lot more open to our visits.
Absolutely. And Dalen, are you finding that this call for transparency is getting stronger from elsewhere in the supply chain? I mean, you were so far away on your farm from the end of the supply chain, but there's so much call for sustainability in the world of cotton. Do you feel under pressure in a way because of that? And is this helping?
Oh, most definitely. And, one thing that I want to clarify, I kind of have a front row seat to this, being able, of where I've been in the last several years. I was Cotton Council International's president. So as a producer, that gave me the opportunity to get to travel to mills around the world and also have communications with brands and retailers, to see how that whole supply chain works. So therefore, that's when it really started becoming apparent to me. I saw it. I knew that sustainability was front and center. It was going to be something that we needed to start trying to tell our story, talking more, just basically educating the end user about what we do out here at the front end, because it's a long way from the day you plant that seed until it winds up in a garment. There's a lot down the chain. But yes, and having sophisticated, verified data collection, which control union seems to be very good at collecting that, or not, but verifying the data. I think that's a great element. I think it should really give the brands, retailers, mills, even the end users, the customers, consumers, at the end of the day, they, can feel good about the garment they wear or whatever it is. It could be whatever product it's cotton. But I think, and then also definitely, I'm a little partial, but U.S. cotton, we have the gold standard for quality. Our classing system here, it's state of the art. It's kind of the gold standard. I mean, it really, if a customer is wanting to buy a specific piece of cotton, they can get a specific piece of cotton. But also, it will be nice when the protocol gets lots of people signed up. I think then for you or the end user to have that assurance, that's the main thing, the assurance that garment was grown and produced and made responsibly and sourced, I guess from uh, I think one of the premier spots in the world, the U.S., where we grow cotton. So, but to me, I feel very strongly about that it is something we need to do, and I'm glad we're doing it. And yeah, we're on the front end, and things will change, but I'm glad that we're working forward to try to get that message out there.
Absolutely. And Diana, would you agree that this transparency and the need for transparency is growing all the time?
Yes. So I think that a lot of consumers are more interested now in where everything is coming from. And these certification and verification programs are just, again, just a tool that companies can use to really like showcase what their producers like Dahlen are doing, all the way down the line. So it is, yeah, it's useful.
And so Dalen, just to finish then, I mean, you talk about US cotton being the gold standard. So really, when somebody picks up a garment and they see that it's made or something made out of US cotton, what do you want them to think immediately? What do you want their first reaction to be?
I want them to have a positive experience and not any kind of a negative experience thinking, well, I don't know how this is grown. I don't know where, who, what, how, when. We want them to know that it is responsibly grown. There is a verification process behind the data that shows that, and I wish I could say it in a better word. I think just to feel good. We want them to have that assurance and feel good about knowing, and honestly, having that personal feel, personal touch, that personal. We want it to be personal. I think that's the main thing. I would say, just remember this: all manufacturing companies, they have quality control. They have somebody that checks the process, no matter what it is in any industry. Think about that. I mean, somebody that checks that. Your car daily. You get in your car and you drive it. If you don't ever check it, you don't ever have it checked out, and have the oil change, sooner or later, it's a declining process. Something's not going to work. I think it's the same thing here at the farm. That's all we're doing is control union. They have come in and they're checking the process. They're checking to see how we're doing. And I think if we had the mindset, the producer and the brands and retailers and the consumer, that we work together to have the very best product we can. That's the goal.
Well, thank you both very much indeed. I guess the word has to be trust, of course, the trust protocol. But that's what you're saying, that you want people to be able to really trust in what they're buying. Well, thank you both very much indeed for being with us. Lots of thoughts there on what third-party verification actually means for growers who are signing up to the trust protocol, and really just how the system is ensuring stronger transparency for everyone. So that's it for this edition of the US Cotton Trust Protocol's Smarter Conversations podcast. You can learn more about the Trust Protocol at trustuscotton.org. Join us next time. We're going to be talking about water, and water is really, really key in the whole growing cycle of cotton. So very important subject. So I do hope you can join us then. But for now, from us, goodbye.